Much like you, I always search for the best resources and tips when editing YouTube videos. For instance, I want to know how that certain YouTuber do those effects, or where does he get his music that is safe for monetization, and basically how does he record all of that stuff. And well, sometimes I get the info that I want, but most of the time I don't. And now I'm here with some years of knowledge and experience on editing, and I hope that the way that I edit my videos can be proof of how I can decently do that stuff. And yes, I found out the sites where a lot of popular YouTubers get their editing resources. So with that, let's get on with this tutorial as I explore all the FAQ or frequently asked questions that are either asked of me or highly searched. First question, what is the best camera for vlogging? I personally use a Canon 80D DSLR, which is basically the camera that I'm using right now. And with it, I typically use my 10 to 18mm wide-angle lenses, which is great for landscapes and vlogging because of how wide its scope is. To give you guys an idea, I'm recording this clip with my 10 to 18mm lenses on my Canon 80D, and then this one is being taken by my G7X Canon. I'm holding both of these cameras at the same position and length, so you can definitely see the difference. Now, the body of the Canon 80D usually comes at around $1,000 and the lenses is at $250. So yes, it's quite expensive, but it's an investment for me. In fact, I want to upgrade soon because there are some cool new gear out there like the Canon 6D Mark II and Panasonic Lumix GH5. But here's the thing, you don't really need all of this expensive gear, especially if you're still starting out or don't have much of a budget. In fact, a lot of popular YouTubers started out with just recording with their phones, so you can definitely do that too. Besides, I know that you hear this time and time again, but it's really true. Content is king. But then again, if you have some money to spare and you want to invest in a good starter camera for vlogging, then I would highly recommend the Canon PowerShot G7X. Now, what I have here is the older model because this is the first vlogging camera that I use, but I believe they have a newer model which is this G7X2 and it costs at about $550. What video editing software should I use? If you're a beginner, you can make use of softwares like iMovie for Apple and then Windows Movie Maker or Microsoft Photos so that you can get acquainted with how video editing usually goes. But if you're more experienced or if you simply want to do more effects on your videos, these are the top two softwares that are used by YouTubers nowadays: Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro. As you can see, both are softwares that you need to pay for, so it's quite an investment, but their editing power is amazing. I have used both of these programs, and even if Adobe Premiere Pro is more advanced, I settled into using Final Cut Pro because it is not too overwhelming to use. Not to mention that Final Cut Pro is a one-time purchase software compared to Adobe Premiere Pro wherein you have to pay $50 monthly. How do you make and edit your titles? There are already a number of set designs on Final Cut Pro, and some of the titles that I like are Typewriter, which gives off the effect as is, and then the 2D styles of Faux 3D and Offset. After I set these titles, I usually play around with the settings like changing their tracking or space and some others, just so I could improve it a bit more. But for more advanced title effects like this one, I use template title plugins from websites like LinoFX and Pixel Film Studios, which a lot of YouTubers use. Now obviously, most of the plugins have a price tag on them, but they have cool freebies once in a while. However, if you're on a budget, you can DIY titles or intros, and it involves a bit of graphic editing know-how. One trick that YouTubers usually do nowadays is to make layers of images, and then they shorten the time duration to make it look like it's animated. If I do titles like this, I usually make them with Adobe Photoshop. But a lot of vloggers actually do these cute scribble-like titles that move a bit, and they do this with an Apple Pencil on their iPad, where they make multiple versions of the same word and then layer them over, much like what I did previously. Now, I don't have an Apple Pencil, nor do I do titles like that, but if I do, I usually will use my Wacom tablet just because I happen to have one. How do you design video thumbnails? Naturally, you need some graphic design skills in order to do or edit some thumbnails and make them more interesting for viewers. For me, I use Adobe Photoshop in order to come up with designs like this. But if in case you're not good with graphic design, you can make use of websites like Canva, which has free templates for editing your YouTube thumbnails. Where do you get fonts to use? If you want free fonts that can be used commercially, you can check buythefont.com. After all, they have a huge number of font designs that you can choose from. Otherwise, you can sign up with creativemarket.com. They usually give out free fonts every week, so I usually get my other fonts from there, which I noticed that other YouTubers have as well. How can I do great transition and effects? Transition and effects are great to use, especially if you want to segregate sections, separate days, or just simply add some added flair on your clips. Well, don't worry because there are already a number of built-in transition effects in Final Cut Pro. And some of my favorites are bloom and static under lights of transitions, and then bad TV, camcorder, and simple border under effects. Another budget-friendly way to add effects that are not in Final Cut Pro is to find some stock footage on YouTube, like for example, this snowfall effect. You just need to download this, import it to Final Cut Pro, drag it above the clip that you want to apply it to, and then go over this right section and under compositing, select Add. Otherwise, you can just drag down this opacity bar. And of course, if you rather want more advanced ones, you can always get them via LinoFX and Pixel Film Studios. How do YouTubers do color correction? The most basic way is to do it with Final Cut Pro's color correction board, which you can access by clicking this triangle after you select a clip. In here, you can correct the color, saturations, and exposure. And if you want to apply these corrections to all of your clips, you just need to press Command plus C first. And then after selecting all of your other clips, you press Option plus Command plus V. After you do this, make sure to check your other clips so as to ensure that they are not too saturated or overexposed. Meanwhile, another way that YouTubers do color corrections is to make use of LUTs, which are basically set filters that you can just simply apply on your videos. They are certainly a bit more advanced, so it's a great way to color grade your clips better. For some LUTs that you can purchase, you can always find them on Pixel Film Studios or from another website called as Filter Grade. Where do I get music that can be monetized? YouTube is obviously getting even more strict, so in order to avoid getting a copyright strike, it always helps to use music that is free for use. There are a number of websites that YouTubers use for this, but the top 3 would be Epidemic Sound, which is paid, the free YouTube audio library, and SoundCloud, which is also free. Speaking of which, not all the music in SoundCloud are safe to use. You have to check first if the artist who owns the music is permitting his or her tracks to be used for monetized videos. To check this, there are 3 ways to do it. First, after searching for a keyword, filter the search results via the section on the left by clicking Tracks, to listen to, and then to use commercially. Second way is to check the artist's profile. For example, Lakey Inspired here clearly states that you can use his music as long as you give attribution, which is basically linking back to his SoundCloud channel. Otherwise, sometimes the tracks will show a copyright statement at the bottom, which will basically mean that it's also free to use. Lastly, the third way is to simply ask the artist by sending them a message. In this way, I have already followed a number of artists on SoundCloud who allow use of their music in exchange for attribution, so that I'm always updated of their newest tracks that I can possibly use in the future. My favorites so far are Joachim Karut, or Joachim, I don't know, Joachim Karut, Lakey Inspired, and Ixon. Now, if you're still a bit paranoid if the music you're going to use might be copyrighted, there's always a way to check it, and it's to go to this link. This page basically shows all of the music that is not allowed to be used on monetized videos. By the way, you might see some YouTubers who use some copyrighted songs on their monetized videos and still getting away with it. There's actually a myth around the YouTube community wherein they're saying that you can use copyrighted songs as long as you use them for only 10 to 30 seconds. Well, that's total BS, because even if those YouTubers are getting away with it right now, YouTube is slowly cracking down on all of these people and they're always at the risk of getting a copyright claim. There's also this other concept of fair use wherein you are free to use copyrighted music as long as it's for the purpose of research, education, etc., etc. But again, it's still tricky. You will actually find a lot of discussion on fair use online, but if you want to avoid a necessary headache, just don't use copyrighted songs and materials. What is your editing workflow? It depends if it's a video wherein I mostly talk or if it's the vlog kind of thing. But for example, if it's the talking kind, I usually do the script first, and then after that, I record myself with a camera, or if it's just the voice, I will use a USB microphone like this one from Blue. And then I will sync that with my clips and other graphics. However, if it's a vlog or any other kind of video that's somehow similar to it, to save time, I first do a rough layout wherein I lay the clips as I want them to progress. Once I'm done with that, I input the music that I'll be using and then edit along the way as I trim off excess clips, time everything with the music, add transition, and then some effects. My last step is always to proofread in order to ensure that everything is okay. To also help my editing workflow even better, I always ensure that the feature of snapping is always on, so that for example, I can always precisely layer this text with this clip. Another important thing to remember is to check out the keyboard shortcuts that you can use so that you can get familiar with them and that you can make your editing process even faster. You can access this function by clicking Commands under Final Cut Pro. And once you're in here, you can also customize certain actions or keys so that you can best remember them while editing. And that's it for now on this editing tutorial. Now I know that some of the things that I mentioned are a bit advanced and you might not even know how to navigate yourself around the Final Cut Pro interface. But don't worry, there are a lot of free resources online that can help you learn more about these things. For example, other than searching through YouTube, you can also check out websites like Skillshare and Udemy. Otherwise, if you still have some questions for me, please feel free to leave a comment below and then I will try my best to answer them. But overall, I hope that you have found this video helpful and that you have learned a thing or two about how you can better edit your YouTube videos. Now please hit the like button if you have enjoyed this video and don't forget to subscribe as well so that you don't miss out on my future posts. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!